Hello everyone, Bashar here. Patch 14.4 is out now. During release, there were some technical problems. Games didn't end and login times were huge, etc. So we played a little Hearthstone, and after we saw we couldn't get anywhere, we switched to Magic last night. However, I would like to talk about the patch notes. So everyone received a Snip Snap for free. Snip Snap is a nice legendary neutral minion who is a 3 mana 3/2 with Echo and Magnetic, and it summons 2 1/1s upon death. That legendary is given for free from the 3rd of June up to the 1st of July. So you can just log in and get it for free for 4 weeks. It's not disenchantable, by the way. You can't just log in, get that free golden legendary and disenchant it for 1.6k dust and craft a legendary you actually wanted. That doesn't work. The golden one is given for free during this promotion, and the regular one can be crafted afterwards. The card is considered to be from the Boomsday Project set. However, it does not drop from Boomsday Project packs. It will rotate out along with other Boomsday Project cards on April 2020. I think that's about it about Snip Snap. It is a decent card. There are several decks which make use of it. They also added the Masters bundle to the game. It provides you with 10 Rise of Shadows packs, 10 Rastagan Rumble packs, 1 Stolen Thunder card back, and the Shaman hero Lei Shen. In case you don't know, Lei Shen is the final boss of the World of Warcraft raid Throne of Thunder. Was a true epic fight like that. And it costs $20 in Americas region and 20 euros in the European region. There was also an arena rotation with patch 14.4. I'm gonna count it a second. Yeah, Naxxramas, Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, Whispers of the All Gods, and Witchwood have rotated out from arena, and in their place we received Goblins vs Gnomes, the Grand Tournament, One Night in Karazhan, and Boomsday Project. Classic, Basic, and Rise of Shadows haven't rotated out. They are still staying. These 4 sets have left, and these 4 sets have entered in their place. And there are some card backs. Yeah. There is some matchmaking improvements for players between ranks 25 and 21. As you know, you don't lose any stars for losing for ranks between 25 and 21. So Blizzard doesn't really like them pairing with higher ranks where they have an unfair match. So they're balancing it out. They also reduced the chances of matching with the same class over and over again, because sometimes you're playing a deck and say warrior is your counter, and if you get 3 warriors in a row, you get a little frustrated. That's nice. Yeah. And the most important part is we actually received card buffs since ages. The last card buff I remember is reducing Unleash the Hound's mana from 4 to 2. That was the last buff I remember. Should be a good 5 years ago, or maybe even more. Now we received buffs on 2 cards for each class from the Boomsday project, which add up to 18 buffs in total, and the buffs are quite serious. One would expect that they would buff average cards or maybe below average cards, but they went out of their way, and they even buffed cards that are used in ranked play. So we could expect for the meta to shift a little. Gloop Sprayer was reduced down to 7 mana from 8 mana. The Gloop Sprayer is used in the Heal Druid. I mean, it was kind of a meme deck up until recently, but the cost reduction on Gloop Sprayer might help, because the deck uses Lucent Bark, 8 mana for 8 taunt, goes dormant upon death, and whenever you restore 5 health anywhere, it responds. So the idea of the deck is to play Lucent Bark, to copy it with Faceless Manipulator, or to play another with using Floop, the Druid legendary, which becomes a 3/4 copy for 4 mana of a minion that you played, and after death, when you revive it, it wakes up as a 4/8, a regular Lucent Bark. So you try to make as many as Lucent Bark on the board as possible, and then you play Gloop Sprayer for 2 more, having 4 or 5 Lucent Barks on the board. By the way, you can go more, but it's not very beneficial, because then you will have no room on the board, or not much room on the board to play your minions. So 5 should be the best, and in order to revive the Lucent Barks, you have to restore 5 health, so it's best if you yourself are damaged by attacking large minions that your opponent has, so your life is a little bit low, so you can actually do 5 heals. Because if you are at 25, if you are at 29 life and 14 armor, you can heal yourself by only 1, and that won't be enough. You can also heal your opponent or your opponent's minions. That works as well. Anyway, so Gloop Sprayer change might mean something for standard, and in arena I think it's a better card. Now it wasn't really very good because it's 8 mana 4/4, and in arena most of the time players tend to trade. I mean, the winning side will have some minions on their side, and the losing side will not have many minions on their side. So Gloop Sprayer cannot actually produce much value in arena. Now it's 7 mana. There's a chance, I think. Mulch Muncher was reduced to 9 mana. It was a 10 mana 8/8 rush, which used to go cheaper for each treant that died during the entire game. The problem is there are not many treant producing cards. This treant synergy they tried to implement didn't work out very well, because there was living mana, which is rotated from arena now. There's the landscaping. I think that one's out as well. I think because that was from Rastengan's Rumble. Anyway, the power of this card depends on the number of treant producing cards you have, because it's not very good for 9 mana, right? 9 mana 8/8 rush is not very powerful, because there's a 9 mana 9/9 rush in the game. That card's decent, but the 9 mana 8/8 rush is mediocre at best. So if you have a few treant producing cards and those treants die before you play Mulch Muncher, then you could have something nice, because 8 mana 8/8 rush is fine, and 7 mana 8/8 rush is just broken. It's very powerful. But the problem is, if you play a 7 mana 8/8 rush on turn 12, it's not as effective. I mean, it's extremely effective on turn 7 if that's possible. So in order to receive value from this, you should have some treants in the early game, and they should die before turn 7 or 6 or something like that, and you should play this as a 7 mana 8/8 taunt, 8/8 rush, or 6 mana 8/8 red rush on the respective turn. So then it will be very effective. I think this card will be maybe 3 stars or 2.5 stars out of 5. So it's much better now, of course. The Hunter buffs are to Necromechanic. Well, Necromechanic has the Baron Riven there mechanic, makes our Death Rattles trigger twice. And it used to be 5 mana, now it's 4 mana. So it's a 4 mana 3/6, which is a very good attack and health combination. As you know, it's water elementals attack and health combination. So a 4 mana 3/6 is already good on its own for arena, but you cannot really expect to have meaningful death rattles in arena. I mean, you can have a few death rattle minions, but you cannot expect to get value out of it with this one. However, it's a 4 mana 3/6, which is nice, and there is some possible value to be obtained by using it. So should be a 3-star card in the arena, I think. And in standard, it used to be bad, of course, but now it's a 4 mana 3/6. It could be useful because, you know, there's a Death Rattle Mech Hunter with Oblivitron, with those Mechana Whelp, etc. Could be useful. Yeah. Flux Boomzuka, well, this doesn't really help out much. I mean, the problem is not the mana, because, I mean, we are summoning 3 minions from our deck. They attack the enemy minions and then they die. So that would mean I'm losing three cards off of my deck to kill some random enemy minions, which might not actually happen. I mean, my 2/2 can attack my opponent's 6/6 anyway. So 7 mana doesn't help this card. I mean, this is a meaningless buff. It's nothing, worth nothing in arena and possibly standard. I mean, maybe some people will find a use for it, but I don't think it will work out. Let's get to Mage. Mage has unexpected results. It's reduced to 3 mana. I think this is nice. I mean, getting 2 random 2-cost minions improved by spell damage for 3 mana is nice, because if you say a 2 mana minion would have 5 health and attack add up total on average, which is not very correct, but it should be near the truth. I mean, it should be more than 4. It should be nearer 5 than 4, I think. Then you would be getting 10 or 9 total health and attack for 3 mana, which is very nice, because you should be having 3 4s or 4 3s, so 7 health in total. Of course, splitting minions is most of the time bad. I mean, you would rather have a 6/6 instead of 2 3/3s, but still the compensation is nice, because you were expecting to have 7 total stats, whereas you would be getting 9. And there is also the fact that this can be improved by spell damage. Say if you have a Kobold Geomancer on the board, this will give you 2 3-cost minions, which is huge for 3 mana. So I think this is a 3-star card in arena now, maybe 3.5 even. It's decent, and some maybe they will fit this card in the elemental deck, you know, the one with mana anomaly. What was the card's name? the 2 mana 2/2 that gives you spells equal to the number of spells you played that turn, etc. And these cards can fit in that deck. Luna's Pocket Galaxy is now 5 mana. Well, this card used to be one of the worst cards in the game. I don't think it helps much, because the problem is you actually pay 5 mana to get no immediate value at all, right? When you play this card for 5 mana, you get absolutely nothing out of it right away. And then you would have to draw a minion. If you draw a spell, there's no benefit. If you draw a hero card, etc., etc., there's no benefit. If you draw a minion, then there's a potential benefit of some mana, because you can draw a cheap minion and don't get much profit. For example, if you draw a 2 or 3 mana minion, the profit is not very tangible, right? Because you're making a 2 mana minion cost 1 for turn 6, right? Because you can play it by turn 5. I'm not taking into account the coin. You're playing this by turn 5, and then you're drawing a 2 mana minion, which actually costs 1 thanks to Luna's Pocket Galaxy, which is horrible, right? The problem is, after you play the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, you generally don't have enough time to profit. I mean, you lost 1 card and you lost a lot of mana, and then you have to draw several expensive minions so that you can save some mana and profit. Mana wise, you can never profit card wise, because Luna's Pocket Galaxy does not kill a card of your opponent. Yeah, that's the problem. So I don't think even 5 mana is going to save it. I mean, if it was extremely cheap, then it wouldn't matter, but 5 is slow. It's horrible in arena for sure. I'm not an authority when it comes to ranked, so I can't really say anything, but I don't think it will work out. Now we are coming to the weird buffs. Well, Christology was reduced to 1 mana from 2. Now, Christology is already a fine card, It saw play in the Holy Wrath Shirvala decks and in some Mech Paladin decks to draw the 1 mana 1/3 magnetic mech and other possible 1 attack minions that they might play. So maybe say Blood Mage Thanos or something like that. So this was already a good card, and now it's 1 mana. So basically we have draw 2 on a 1 mana card. I don't think this has ever happened in Hearthstone before. I mean, there are some conditional draw 2 cards for 2 mana. They are not exactly draw 2, but they can produce 2 cards. Now Christology is 1 mana, which is huge. Those decks will, of course, will rise in power. I'm not sure how much stronger they will become, but that's very nice. So this will affect standard for sure. In arena, I don't think it's a very good card. I mean, because the problem is you do not have many 1 attack minions in your deck. So Christology will not bring you 2 creatures most of the time, and if it brings 1, it's bad anyway. So the thing is, most of your 1 attack minions are early game minions, and you want to draw them from the start of the game. So you mulligan for them, and say if you have 3 1 attack minions in your deck, let's say you start with 1, you play a little, you draw another, and then you draw your Christology. That would mean you will be drawing only 1 attack minion from your deck by using Christology, and that's not beneficial. That's not very beneficial, because you would be drawing a 1 attack minion for 1 mana, say on turn 6 or something like that, which is not very useful. So I think in order to Christology to be good on arena, you need to have, say, 4 or more 1 attack minions in your deck. But That's not very likely. I mean, you should have some mid-game minions that have one attack, and there are sadly not too many. You could have the 4 mana 1/7 taunt, which is not a good card. Maybe the 3 mana 1/5 magnetic taunt, which is back in arena now. Maybe those. We shall see. But this doesn't affect arena much. This card, well, this card is fine. I mean, it was a little bit too expensive. Now it's 5 mana, so gives all your minions in your hand +2/+2, which is very effective. It goes well in mech paladin decks, where you could get the 1 mana 1/1 rush and 1 mana 1/3 magnetic Scatterbot and Glowtron, I think. So you hold out a little, you play the Glowstone Technician, then you can play the Galvanizer to reduce their mana by 1. So you will have a 0 mana 3/3 rush and 0 mana 3/5 magnetic, etc. That works fine. And it used to be a little slow for arena as well. Now it's much better. 5 mana 3/4 is only a little weak. I mean, 6 mana 3/4 is quite weak, right? Because you want to play 3/4s for 3 mana, and 6 is just too much. But on 5 mana, it would be more acceptable, and its effect is huge. I mean, the problem with hand buff is you want them early, because in the early game you have a lot of minions in your hand, and the hand buff is effective, right? Because if you pump, say, 5 minions, it's something else, and if you pump only 2 minions, it's quite different. I mean, the value you get out of the hand buff is much lower. So 5 mana Glowstone Technician would be very nice. In case you can hold your opponent in the early game on the board a little, you could coin him out on turn 4, and then you would possibly win the game if your hand contains a little bit of taunts, etc. Because +2/+2 is quite something. Say you're playing a Fang Reaper on turn 5, so you coined out this on turn 4, and you're playing a Fang Reaper on turn 5. It's a 5 mana 5/8 taunt, which is extremely powerful, of course. So this buff might affect both standard and arena. And we are coming to the biggest buff of them all, I think. Maybe Crystology was something, but I think extra arms, well, at least arena wise, it gives +2/+2 for 3 mana, and gives you a token card called More Arms that gives +2/+2 for 3 mana. The thing is, this card is reduced now to 2 mana, and the token card is also reduced to 2 mana. So it's a 2 mana +2/+2, and then another 2 mana +2/+2 as well. The problem here is this is automatically better than Blessing of Kings. Blessing of Kings is a 4 mana +4/+4, right? This card is a splittable Blessing of Kings that can be used on multiple minions, and that can be used on multiple turns. I mean, say if you play something on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you could play a 1 mana card and More Arms. I mean, you cannot play Blessing of Kings on turn 3, right? I'm not taking into account the coin, like I said before. So this is a 2 mana +2/+2, and then another 2 mana +2/+2, which is huge. This is solid 5 stars in the arena now. It's extremely powerful. And take into account priest hero power as well, right? So I have a 2/3 in front of me, and my opponent has a 3/4, and I give +2/+2. I make my 2/3 into a 4/5, kill my opponent's 3/4. I end up with a 4/2 minion, and I heal it up to 4/4, which is huge. And I do have another +2/+2 in my hand waiting to chomp my opponent's next minion. This card is huge, extremely powerful in arena. You probably should pick it every time you see it. I mean, you can never go wrong with it. I think you can play 3 or something like that. It's very powerful. Maybe 3 might be a little too much, but 2 is definitely playable and useful in arena. I think we might see some play in standard as well. We shall see about it. Cloning device is much better now. It will cost 1 mana now. So the problem with those expensive discover cards is that discover is a 1 mana effect. I mean, if you're discovering a card, I mean, if that's the only thing that the card does, it should cost 1 mana, because then you would be paying too much, because discover forms a small advantage by letting you have a choice out of 3 options, right? And that choice is worth 1 mana. However, 2 is too expensive. For example, you are discovering a creature or a minion from your opponent's deck, and then you are paying 2 mana, then you discover, and then say you play an 8/8 taunt. Then you would have paid 10 mana for an 8/8 taunt. That's a little too much. So if you remember hallucination or magic trick or the death rattle discovering raw card, they are all 1 mana and they are acceptable, right? That's the thing. So cloning device will now also be 1 mana, which is very nice. So first of all, we get to see 3 minions in our opponent's deck, right? That's useful. I mean, if you see a Deathwing, even if you don't pick it, then you know your opponent has a Deathwing coming, so you can play accordingly. That's some extra value there, and you will have the advantage of the choice. So you will take a look and you will pick the most useful one for yourself, which is nice. I think this card is quite nice now. At least 3 stars, worth picking. We shall see about it, because I'm not sure which bucket Blizzard placed the cloning device in after its buff, so we shall see about it. Pogo Hopper will be 1 mana now. This is absolutely useless in arena, obviously, because you cannot expect to have multiple Pogo Hoppers and Pogo Hopper increasing cards. So let's not just discuss this. 0 stars out of 5, 10. But there might be some merit in it in standard, maybe. People were excited about it, but I think the problem with Pogo Hopper is not the mana, right? I mean, the point where you start to get some value out of Pogo Hoppers is just too late most of the time. I mean, in the early game, you try to survive, you play a 2 mana 1/1, which is horrible, and you don't have the mana for your tricks except for Shadow Step maybe, and for Shadow Step the buff doesn't really do anything, because you could play Pogo Hopper and Shadow Step it and play it again on turn 2 anyway for a 2 mana 3/3, and you can now do it on turn 1, but doesn't really change much, I think. So most of the time Pogo decks are too little too late, but we shall see about it. Violet Haze is now 2 mana. This is a buff I'm proud of, because I suggested that this should happen quite a while ago, even though I was not really expecting any buffs to the game. So the problem is, drawing 2 cards or equivalent stuff should cost 3 mana. 1 card advantage should cost 3 mana. That's fair, and that's implemented into the game, and we can see it most of the time, right? But creating 2 random cards does not have the same value as draw, right? Because when you draw, you actually get cards that you put in your deck, so they have a certain quality level. However, random cards do not have that quality level. I mean, you can get horrible stuff, right? I mean, you can get good stuff, but you can also get bad stuff, and the average value that a random card creates is lower than a draw. So I always said that random card creating cards should be 1 mana cheaper, as seen in Astral Rift, right? The Mage card that creates 2 minions for 2 mana. Violet Haze falls within the same category, so I suggested that Violet Haze should be 2 mana as well, so it's now reduced to 2 mana. Word of advice though, you should pay attention. It says Death Rattle cards rather than Death Rattle minions, so it can actually give Death Rattle weapons. I mean, there are no Death Rattle hero cards, but there are Death Rattle weapons, so you could get, say, Necreum Blade, or Death Bite doesn't exist right now, I know, but theoretically, if Arena were wild, you could get Death Bite, etc. as well. So there are weapons to be obtained from this. I don't know if that would happen in the current Arena pool, but there's a possibility. And now the card is decent because it costs 2 mana, right? You get 2 random options for 2 mana, which ends up in a card advantage unless you get something horrible, say like Goblin Bomb or something. Well, now our last 3 classes. The Stormbringer is now 6 mana. I think this will have an impact on standard because of Hagatha, right? Hagatha gives you the hero card. Hagatha gives you random spells whenever you play minions, so you can actually get the Stormbringer at some point. There's also the Haunting Visions that let you discover a spell and plays your next spell for 3 mana cheaper. And with Thunderhead, you will see it next. With Thunderhead, you can fill your board quickly and then play the Stormbringer. Say, for example, you play Thunderhead, you zap something, you get 3 1/1 sparks, and if you had 2 minions on board from the previous turn, you would have now 5 minions, and you could play the Stormbringer to get 5 random legendary minions. I don't think it will see play on its own. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not an expert on standard. Thunderhead is 3/6. This is huge. This card was already seeing standard play in Control Shaman decks, etc. It's a very good card, and now it's a 3/6, which is huge. Like I said, this is already a good card. It's very solid now. 4 mana 3/6. I think it's 4 or 4.5 stars in Arena, because the problem is you cannot expect to have many overload cards in Arena. I mean, you just get the best cards that you are offered. You can't just pursue overload just to have Thunderhead work. But since the cards are now offered in buckets, the alternatives offered to you will generally be of the same power level or at least close, so you can go for the overload. Perhaps it might work out. This is a very solid, nice card now. Okay, and on to Warlock. Warlock's buffs are generally arena oriented, I think. Spirit Bomb is now 1 mana, 4 damage to your face and 4 damage to a minion, so it's basically a Shadow Bolt that's 2 mana cheaper and hits you for 4 in the face. I think this card is worth it now, because just 1 mana cheap and damages your face by 4 damage. For 4 damage is a lot. Now it's in the middle somewhere. It resembles Soulfire and it resembles Shadow Bolt, right? The main difference with Soulfire is that it can't go face. You can't hit your opponent's face with it. Soulfire can hit face, as you know. So I can deal 4 damage to a minion and I take 4 face damage. Well, if that minion is relatively big, so that would already hit me for 4 in the face, and I just pay 1 mana and get rid of that and take that 4 damage already. This is a nice card. I think in Arena it's 3.5 or 4 stars maybe. It's good now. I don't think it will see any rank play. Dr. Morrigan is buffed hugely, down to 6 mana from 8. Well, it was a horrible card. 8 mana 5/5, right? Now it's a 6 mana 5/5. It's still weak, but whenever she dies, she brings a minion from our deck instead of her. Of course, she's a bit better. I mean, reducing the cost by 2 mana is not something to taken to be lightly. It's quite something, but the problem is the card was horrible. I mean, even making it 2 mana cheaper, well, it's acceptable in Arena now for sure, because it's a 6 mana 5/5, and upon death she brings something else. So it's a 6 mana 5/5 plus something else. That's worth it now. I'm not sure about it, but in standard or in ranked, maybe they will use her in a deck with a few minions, so you can get something really big when Dr. Morrigan dies. Maybe. We shall see. I don't have many hopes though. And finally we have Warrior. Warrior's buffs are weird. I mean, I don't think these cards will appear on standard, but they appear on standard thanks to Dr. Boom, the hero, Dr. Boom Mad Genius, and they will have some effect. This guy gives you 3 taunts whenever they take damage, so it's now up to a 2/6, which is harder to kill obviously, and it's stronger. And the Beryllium Nullifier that gives untargetable to a minion, and it's magnetic, so you can bestow this gift upon another fellow mech by attaching him. It's a 4/8 now. Like I said, these cards do not see direct play in standard, but because of Dr. Boom, Mad Genius's hero power, you can discover mechs. There's also the Omega Assembly, so these cards will produce random mechs, and you really see these cards every once and then when you're playing against Bomb Warrior or Control Warrior. So these changes will affect standard. Currently in Arena, Warrior is horrible. We shall see after the new rotation, so these won't really pick Warrior up. These are not really huge changes anyway. I mean, these were mediocre cards and they are now a little better, say 2 stars out of, or 2.5 stars out of 5, maybe 3 stars now. So these won't save the class. Maybe the new rotation or the average bucket that it receives its cards from will be increased, so Warrior will be a better class. We will see. So that's about it, guys. That's patch 14.4 changes and the card buffs. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer them. See ya.